I'm Ed Clague and I'm the Registrar General for the Central Registry.
Okay, so explain to me first of all what the Central Registry is. What's the Land Registry that we're talking about today?
Okay, well, the Central Registry covers lots of aspects of registration, from company registration, civil registration, but here today we're talking about Land Registry. And the Land Registry aim is to create and maintain an up-to-date record of interest in land and property on the Isle of Man. We're moving away from a historic way of registering land, so we've had a deeds registry in the Isle of Man since the mid-1900s, and historically if you were buying and selling land, it'd be done by a deed which would be registered in the Land Registry, and when you came to sell that property later on, it'd be quite a complicated process of establishing title and looking back in historic deeds. So since 2002, we've introduced the Land Registry, and the idea of the Land Registry is to create a digital database of all property ownership and interest in land in the Isle of Man. And since 2002, if you've bought property in the Isle of Man, or you've entered into a lease of more than 21 years, or a lease with more than 21 years to run, you've had to compulsorily register that land in the Land Registry. And at this stage now, we think we've got just under 30% of the Isle of Man registered. When that comes to property that people buy and sell on a regular basis, commercial properties and residential properties, we think we've got at least 50% of those properties registered, but there's still some large tracts of land unregistered.
So you mentioned like the likes, just to envision it for listeners, the likes of, up near Snaefell and stuff, that's not registered.
Yeah, there's large parts of government land, agricultural land, and just people who've lived in their properties for 40 years whose land isn't registered. But anyone who's bought a property in the last 20 years was more than likely or not going to have a land registered on a database.
And so, you kind of touched on it there, but why is there that requirement for land and property to be registered? And what does it kind of entail if you have to go about the process of doing that?
A complete and accurate land registry is a long-term strategic asset for the Isle of Man. It improves transparency, which is great for markets. It streamlines property transactions, and it supports strategic planning. So that's from a government angle. But from an individual angle, there's great benefits there as well. If your property is registered in the Land Registry, you've got a state guarantee that your title is correct, and if there's any losses arising from that, there's a compensation. It can protect you against fraud because you can put restrictions on your property. If you come to buy or sell that property later on, it makes transactions a lot smoother. That transparency and confidence is, I think, is a big thing. If you look on the Isle of Man government's website, we've got masses of open data on property markets. So if you want to look at our title search register or our open data sets, that openness of property values and what's registered, that's a great thing as well. It improves boundary clarity. When you register with the Land Registry, you get a modern map based on the government's Managis system. If you look at some very historic deeds, you'll see, maps which are like 150 years out of date. And that just better clarity, better accuracy, all around better for everyone, really.
Perfect. And so most land and property transactions trigger compulsory registration. But I understand the desire is to speed up the process by getting people to register land and properties then.
Yeah. So there are compulsory triggers, as you say there, but you can also voluntarily register your land at any time. And we see about 5 of them a month, I would say. I'm guessing that off the top of my head. So, yeah, but we would like to encourage people to register the land voluntarily without having to wait for a compulsory trigger. And that's the background of what we're doing this consultation here for, is we're asking people to say, what is preventing them from registering their land voluntarily? What are the barriers, perceived barriers that are in place, and what can we do to remove those barriers? So that's, how can we talk to people to say, what can we do to encourage you to voluntarily register your land?
And I suppose at the moment, the services of an advocate are required to do this, which presumably comes at a cost above the registration fee of £75. Do you think things like that are putting people off voluntary registration? Is there a scope to simplify the process to remove that need for an advocate?
And that's a really good question. And that's the question we're asking in the consultation. Is it fees putting off? Is it complication of the process? Can we make the process? So we're asking this very open, very honest question. What can we do? What is putting you off? Or what can we do to simplify the process? So we're looking for that feedback. We're coming to this with no prejudged ideas. We're looking for them ideas to come from the public, yeah.
My next question is, do you know roughly what percentage of properties are now registered? But I think we touched on that a little bit.
We touched on that. We think about a third of the Isle of Man is registered, but if it comes down to residential properties, when we see residential properties being registered in the Isle of Man, more than 50% of them have already been through the Land Registry at least once. So we would say more than 50% of residential and commercial properties are registered.
Perfect. And so what benefits then will a comprehensive register of land and properties on the island bring? You mentioned all the sort of elements of transparency and things like that.
Yeah, governments internationally tend to want to know who owns the land. That's great for planning, and it's great for individuals because they have I think the biggest thing is a state-backed guarantee that your title is good. So that's the two big wins.
Yeah. And so the consultation closes on the 4th of May. Do you envision a big response to it?
We hope so. We'd like to get as many responses as possible. We expect to get responses from individuals. We also hope to get responses from sort of industry groups such as, the National Farmers Union or the Law Society. The bigger the better.
And so you mentioned there that probably about nearly 30% of the overall island is registered. How do people access that information? Is it publicly available anywhere?
Yeah, the information is publicly available. You can view our title register on www.gov.im/maps and select the Land Registry there. And from there you can see all the registered land on the Isle of Man, and for a fee you can go behind that and look at title documents and look some further information. But we also have some open data sets. If you go on to www.gov.im/open data, you can see every property transaction registered in the Isle of Man since we started the Land Registry. And that's a fantastic resource if you're wanting to research property values. And we've seen some third parties take our data and present that in really creative ways. So at this time of year, when people, when the property market starts getting hot, that's a really great resource for finding out what are the property areas values in this area and have they changed. We also have our online dashboard, which way you can view the progress of your application. So if your application is already in the registry and you want to know how it's progressing, that's available. That's www.gov.im/Land Registry stats. So the information is available in a range of resources to view it, download it, challenge it. So that's a really fantastic thing about the Land Registry.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.